Morning. For today, Jackson, Mississippi is under a state of emergency because of a water crisis. The long-neglected water plant has failed after recent flooding, leaving residents without drinking water.
The South Carolina House of Representatives approves an abortion ban with exceptions on Tuesday. A last-minute amendment was added to keep the bill alive.
And in global news, former Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev has passed away at the age of 91. He's credited with helping bring about the end of the Cold War.
A remarkable American teen who started his own business at the age of 7 and penned his own biography at 14 passed away in June. He lost his life in a tragic kayak accident, but his legacy continues to inspire others. We take a look at his incredible feats. Good morning. Welcome to NTD. I'm Kevin Hogan.
Good morning, and I'm Evelyn Leeds. Wednesday today, August 31st. And our first headline today is in Mississippi. Recent flooding has caused a crisis for residents of Jackson. Officials say the water has become so tainted it's not safe to brush your teeth with. A complete failure of the water system is a possibility officials have known about for some time. And on Monday, it happened. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more.
Please stay safe. Do not drink the water.
Water issues are not a new problem in Jackson, Mississippi.
The last few weeks, even like the last few months, like Jackson always has a water problem. You know what I'm saying? They really need to get that together.
The current crisis follows a string of disruptions to the city's water supply in recent years, caused by high lead levels, bacterial contamination, and storm damage.
It's horrible, and I would like for it to be fixed. Please fix our water. I'm tired of not being able to cook, clean, and do like I need to do.
Residents have been under some sort of boil water notice or advisory several times in the last year alone. In 2021, a winter storm shut down the entire system.
We need to do something about it because we do pay taxes and we expect that the system will work.
State officials are now telling residents to avoid using public water as they work to repair a long-neglected water treatment plant, which has now broken down. After record rainfall and flooding over the weekend, O.B. Curtis Water Plant is no longer pumping out clean water.
Due to the flood, they were receiving a different composition of water, right? A different makeup of water that made it more difficult to treat. That's why they were unable to push out more water, because they were making certain that they were effectively treating the water.
The city maintains they don't have the financial resources to make repairs on a system that's been neglected for 30 years. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves declared a state of emergency for some 180,000 residents in Jackson and surrounding communities. Up to 4,500 National Guard members have been activated to distribute drinking water.
The city cannot produce enough water to fight fires, to reliably flush toilets, and to meet other critical needs.
Reeves reiterated the urgent need to get the plant fixed, offering for the state to pay half of the repairs needed if the city covers the other half. The White House approved Mississippi's federal disaster declaration request today. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
And in other news, the U.S. Navy foils an attempt by the naval forces of Iran's Revolutionary Guard to capture an unmanned surface vessel. The U.S. Fifth Fleet in the Persian Gulf operated the drone. U.S. Navy ships observed an Iranian Navy vessel towing the sea drone. The USS Thunderbolt immediately responded. It's a U.S. patrol ship operating in the region. It shadowed the Iranian vessel, then radioed it to identify the drone as American. They made it clear that the drone was operating in international waters and that they had every intention to take action if necessary. The Iranians unhooked the tow line and departed the area 4 hours later. U.S. Army General Michael Kurilla praised the Thunderbolt's crew for its response. He is the leader of the U.S. military's Central Command. He said the incident demonstrated Iran's continued destabilizing, illegal, and unprofessional activity in the Middle East. Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency alleged that the drone posed a danger to international shipping, but they provided no evidence of this. The Fifth Fleet launched its Unmanned Task Force 59 last year. Its area of responsibility includes the critical Strait of Hormuz. That's the narrow mouth of the Persian Gulf through which 20% of the world's oil passes. And more military news, the U.S. Army has temporarily grounded its fleet of about 400 Chinook helicopters. This is due to a risk of engine fires. Boeing makes the heavy-lift Chinook helicopters that support disaster relief operations and medical evacuation. International defense forces use them, including those of Italy, South Korea, and Canada. U.S. Army spokeswoman Cynthia Smith said that the Army has identified the root cause of fuel leaks that caused a small number of engine fires. The fires occurred in the H-47 helicopters. Smith said the Army is implementing corrective measures to resolve the issue. The grounding was performed out of an abundance of caution, though no deaths or injuries have occurred. It will be effective until corrective actions are completed. It targets certain models with engines manufactured by Honeywell International. The Chinook is the U.S. Army's only heavy-lift cargo helicopter. It has a unique system that uses rotor blades in both the front and rear of the helicopter.
And Mikhail Gorbachev has died at age 91. He's credited with ending the Cold War without bloodshed, and he oversaw the removal of Europe's Iron Curtain. Here are the details.
After decades of Cold War tension and confrontation, Gorbachev, the last Soviet president, broke with the past. He helped to remove the Iron Curtain that had divided Europe and bring about the reunification of Germany. He struck nuclear arms deals with the United States and brought the Soviet Union closer to the West than at any point since World War II. Gorbachev struck up a rapport with the West and with Ronald Reagan, who had called the Soviet Union the evil empire. Together they negotiated a landmark deal in 1987 to scrap intermediate-range nuclear missiles. When pro-democracy protests swept across the Soviet bloc nations of communist Eastern Europe in 1989, he refrained from using force. Unlike previous leaders who had sent tanks to crush uprisings in Hungary in 1956 and Czechoslovakia in 1968. But those protests fueled aspirations for autonomy in the 15 republics of the Soviet Union, which disintegrated over the next 2 years in chaotic fashion. Gorbachev became General Secretary of the Soviet Communist Party in 1985 at age 54. He was a reformer, setting out to revitalize the system by introducing limited political and economic freedoms. His policy of glasnost, or free speech, allowed previously unthinkable criticism of the party and the state, but also emboldened nationalists who began to press for independence in the Baltic republics of Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and elsewhere. While he was celebrated in the West, many Russians never forgave Gorbachev for the turbulence that his reforms unleashed, believing it was too high a price to pay for democracy. And in the final months of his life, Gorbachev has seen much of his legacy destroyed as President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine has brought sanctions on Moscow and talks in both Russia and the West of a new Cold War. As one Kremlin watcher told Reuters, it's one of the ultimate tragedies that none of the values that Gorbachev ultimately came to embrace have been preserved by the leaders of Russia today.
Gorbachev biographer William Taubman reflects on his relationship with the former Soviet leader. Taubman is a professor emeritus from Amherst College in Massachusetts. He got to know Gorbachev during a series of interviews.
Well, I was talking just the other day to a Russian intellectual, a professor, who, like many other educated Russians and not educated Russians, have fled Putin's Russia. And he said something surprising to me. He said, there are a lot of people who are hoping for another perestroika. That's what Gorbachev's reform process was called. The word in Russian, perestroika, means restructuring. He was a good man. He was a decent man. I think his tragedy is, in a sense, that he was too decent for the country he was leading and trying to lead in the direction of overall decency.
President Biden issued a statement following the passing of Gorbachev. He called the former Soviet leader a man of remarkable vision. The statement described Gorbachev as a rare leader who had the imagination to see that a different future was possible and who had the courage to risk his whole career to achieve it. It went on to describe how Gorbachev had embraced democratic reforms and believed in openness and restructuring. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson expressed admiration for the courage and integrity he showed in bringing the Cold War to a peaceful conclusion.
And former U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice described him as a man who tried to deliver a better life for his people. The South Carolina House approved a bill that bans abortion with exceptions on Tuesday. An amendment was added with an exception for rape and incest and for cases where the mother's life is at risk. The chamber initially rejected the bill without exceptions by 8 votes. After exceptions were added, the bill passed by a vote of 67 to 38. Abortions up to 12 weeks after conception will be allowed if a woman tells a doctor she was raped. The doctor has 24 hours after the procedure to report the case to law enforcement. Those who violate the law could face a felony charge with a $10,000 fine and up to 2 years in prison. Abortion providers could also have their licenses revoked. If the bill is enacted, it will set the time of conception as the starting date for a biological father's child support responsibilities. The bill has one more routine reading vote on Wednesday before heading to the state Senate.
And now a black market online for abortion pills is thriving. It was first reported by the Wall Street Journal. Dozens of those websites say they can ship drugs anywhere in the U.S. and they don't need a prescription. People buying those pills can not only face criminal charges, the health implications are severe. Some say that you won't know what you're getting. Joining me to discuss the hazards of chemical abortions is Teresa Marzano. She is the president of the Gen 410 organization. It's good to have you, Teresa.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, Biden signed an executive order that protects abortion pills. So why do people turn to the black market?
So, well, they're confused. They're confused right now and they're desperate. So the abortion industry actually drove the market to online telemarketing. That's been their long-term goal since for the last 22 years. So now we've got all these dispensaries popping up, and the confusion lies in which ones are actually regulated and authorized and which ones are black market, don't really know what you're getting. Some of the directions from these sites also are very outside of the approved use of these drugs. They're supposed to be limited 10 weeks. We're seeing them up to 14 weeks. This is throwing women to a very, very serious, dangerous situation.
So what are the health risks of, I want to talk about both, based on what you said, of those pills from the black market, but also the health risks of those in the regulated market. Can you first start with the black market?
When you go telehealth, you have no ultrasound, you have no blood test, you have no health check, right? So you don't even know what health that woman's in. You don't know what age she is. You don't know what gestation that baby actually is. These pills force a woman's body to do a very unnatural thing. Now, these pills are being used at double the toxic dose. So just regulated usage is already a toxic level for the woman's body in order for these pills to work. That's why they have all of the serious side effects. They have the diarrhea, the vomiting, high fevers. These are all toxic indications of the use of misoprostol. That's why in 2016, the drug company, the sponsors, had serious adverse reporting deleted. It's not a requirement. Only deaths. The reason why is 85% of the women have serious reactions at this higher dose. They doubled the dose in 2016 when they brought the age from 7 weeks up to 10 weeks. These pills aren't working at 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 14 weeks. So now they've doubled, again, what started as a 400 milligram dose of misoprostol at FDA approval. And it's not really, it's still being used off-label. This drug has never been approved for this use, Cytotec, the second drug. It's now 4 times the original dose. So now we have drugs coming in from unapproved sources with unapproved medical guidelines. And so what do we have? We have a disaster. However, the drug manufacturers and the FDA are responsible for this. When they have a drug approved, they're required to foresee any black market issues. Where we need to go now is we need to get this drug withdrawn. The regulations, the safe regulations, this is full exploitation of unsuspecting women. They trust the FDA. They trust their doctors.
That's some very interesting information and insights that you have there. We got to end it here, but thank you so much for your insights, Teresa Marzano, Gen 410 organization. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Still to come, New York is making it illegal to carry a gun in certain areas. There are also new requirements for issuing concealed carry permits. Find out more about the new law that goes into effect Thursday. And Japan aims to develop and mass-produce long-range missiles. It's part of a military expansion aimed at meeting threats from China and Russia. Stay tuned for more right here on NTD Good Morning.
Freedom is not free, and neither is the truth. In order to bring you the facts, our reporters are out there on the front lines getting the true story. Some of them served 10 years of prison in China. We've been censored on social media. Our Hong Kong printing offices were set on fire, and we've been repeatedly attacked by the Chinese Communist Party. But no matter what, we believe that you deserve the truth, and so we'll continue to bring the truth to light. Head on over to getepic.com and try honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
The 2022 NTD 8th International Chinese Vocal Competition will be held from September 29th to October 2nd at the Merkin Hall of Kaufman Music Center in New York City. The competition is honored to have specially invited vocalists with the world-renowned Shen Yun Performing Arts to serve on its panel of judges. The gold award is $10,000. For more information, please visit vocal.ntdtv.com.
Welcome back. Japan will develop and mass-produce a cruise missile and a high-velocity ballistic missile. The announcement came today as Japan seeks the ability to strike more distant targets. It's part of a military expansion aimed at meeting threats from China and Russia. The move represents a clear departure from a decades-long range limit imposed on Japan's self-defense forces. So far, this meant they could only field missiles with ranges of a couple hundred miles. Concerns about China's regional ambitions grew this month after it fired 5 ballistic missiles into waters less than 100 miles from Japan. The budget request is for funding to mass-produce ground-launched cruise missiles designed to strike ships and high-velocity glide ballistic missiles. Japan's ministry also seeks money to develop other projectiles, such as hypersonic warheads. Although it gave no indication on the quantity or range for the proposed weapons, they would likely have the capability to reach targets on mainland China. And back in the States, carrying a gun in some areas of New York City will be illegal starting Thursday. A new state law was passed after the Supreme Court ruling in June that said Americans have a right to carry firearms in public for self-defense. Places deemed sensitive by authorities will be off limits. That includes schools, parks, subways, theaters, and churches. It also includes Times Square and other high-traffic areas. Gun carriers can only enter private businesses with permission. For example, if a shop owner posts a sign saying it's allowed. The new measures also have new requirements for issuing concealed carry permits. Applicants will now have to complete 16 hours of classroom training and 2 hours of live fire exercises. They will also have to give a list of their social media accounts for the past 3 years as part of a character and conduct review. Gun advocates say the new law will make it difficult for people with permits to move around in public. The law is already facing legal challenges. A federal judge is expected to rule on a motion soon challenging multiple provisions of the law.
Moving on to the Drug Enforcement Administration, it's observing an alarming new trend of brightly colored fentanyl made to look like candy. Traffickers are using it to attract kids and teenagers. The agency said law enforcement began seizing brightly colored rainbow fentanyl earlier this month. Drug pushers sell rainbow fentanyl in multiple forms, according to the DEA. These can be pills, powder, or even blocks that resemble sidewalk chalk. Just recently, authorities seized this kind of rainbow fentanyl resembling sidewalk chalk in Portland, Oregon on 2 occasions. They also confiscated about 15,000 multicolored pills from one individual in West Virginia. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is up to 50 times stronger than heroin. Traffickers often mix it with other drugs like heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine. Synthetic opioids caused 66% of U.S. overdose deaths in 2021. And then moving on to drug-free zones, a school in Atlanta has painted its basketball court and play area with solar reflective coatings designed to help reduce surface temperatures. The school, along with volunteers, teachers, and students, spent the day painting the sports area to encourage play and socialization. Students provided input on the project, and it also became a learning tool. The school and the company who provided the coating, GAF Street Bond, say they're hoping the project will mitigate the so-called heat island effect.
It was so hot that sometimes we would have to go up to the door to go get some air, or we would ask the teachers so we can go get our water bottles, because some of us leave our water bottles inside. It would be really hot outside.
Yeah, it was around 3 to 10 degree difference, on the concrete. It was quite hot.
So with the solar reflective coating, it'll just help you have more energy to play longer.
And up next, NASA will attempt to relaunch its new moon rocket on Saturday. Engine trouble halted the first countdown earlier this week. And a remarkable American teen who started his own business at age 7 and penned his own biography at 14. He lost his life in a kayak accident in June, but his legacy continues to inspire others. We have his incredible story after the break.
Communism is evil. Oh, come on. Listen, if you're as tired of the censorship as I am, I've actually got good news for you. Check out epictv.com. It's a brand new censorship-free video platform where you can find not only my show, but other deep documentaries, great programs, and honest movies that bring you the news without all the spin and the fake narratives. So, I'll see you there.
I love you!
Good to have you back. NASA will try Saturday to relaunch its new moon rocket on a test flight. Engine trouble halted the first countdown earlier this week. Managers said Tuesday they are changing fueling producers. A bad sensor also could be to blame for Monday's scrapped launch. NASA mission manager for Artemis 1 says if engines can't be thermally conditioned, the launch will not go ahead.
And we got a fully loaded vehicle and went into the engine bleed demonstration and attempted to do the thermal conditioning of the RS-25 engines, but we were unable to get the engines within the thermal conditions required to commit to launch.
What I would like to do, and what I plan to do with the help of the team, is put us in a situation that gets us the data we need to know that we've got the engines chilled down appropriately and go fly using the data that we've got access to today.
Just 3 test dummies will be on board this time. If successful, astronauts could attempt a lunar landing in 2025.
And it will be the first capsule to fly to the moon since NASA's Apollo program 50 years ago. And a remarkable American teen with selfless motives passed away in a tragic kayak accident at 14 years of age, 1 month after releasing his autobiography. His legacy continues to inspire others, and we take a look at the incredible feats he accomplished as a child and spoke to his father, who encouraged him every step of the way.
Hey everyone, I'm Cole.
Meet 14-year-old Kevin Cooper from Beryl, Utah, who went under the pseudonym of Cole Summers.
Cole here. It's been about a week since I published the ebook version of my autobiography, Don't Tell Me I Can't.
Kevin posted this video on his Twitter account a month before his tragic death in a kayaking accident.
We had no idea the reach he was starting to have online. Obviously, that's been something that's been very uplifting for us, is seeing how many people he's encouraged and inspired.
He was already making waves on Twitter, sharing with homeschool communities his mindset and education, many naming him a prodigy. To say Kevin was ambitious is an understatement. At 7 years old, he began his first business breeding rabbits. He started a farm at 7 years old. He owned his first truck at 8, a payment for replacing cylinder head valves for a neighbor. He grew his farm into a 347-acre ranch by 9, a house at 10 which he renovated, and bought his first tractor at 11, a birthday present to himself. By 14, Kevin had a plan to tackle hay and farming aquifer depletion, a solid solution to an environmental crisis where he lived. And Kevin never stopped playing.
He took joy in everything he did.
He was a character. He loved to have fun, try to make people happy. Both of Kevin's parents were homebound, as his mother is partially sighted and his father is a U.S. veteran who uses a wheelchair. This led them to homeschool and then unschooling.
It turned into unschooling when he was 6, and he became enthralled with studying Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger.
Kevin wrote his autobiography when he was 14. He called it Don't Tell Me I Can't, an ambitious homeschooler's journey. The book covers the story of his family and what shaped his mindset. He shares the ups and downs, successes and setbacks, encouraging other homeschool and unschool families. He didn't have all the answers, but he figured if he kept trying, he was going to succeed. Even when he wrote the book, he wouldn't tell anybody local at all. He wanted to earn every sale through earning people's respect online. Sadly, he was never able to realize all of his goals. On June 11, the 14-year-old boy lost his life while kayaking in Utah's Newcastle Reservoir with his older brother, who has autism. Throughout all of his impressive projects, his parents are most proud of how he cared for others, his family, his animals, and the earth.
He treated everybody around him with love and kindness. I would tell people that they're a lot more capable than what the systems of education and everything else around us leaves us to believe that we can do as individuals. He would tell people that they are more capable than they've been led to believe.
Let's hope Kevin's legacy inspires others.
Wow, I'm a bit emotional from this, but he certainly blows away any great expectations about what we're capable of.
Yeah, what a remarkable kid. I mean, it's so sad that his life ended so soon, but he got a lot done. And you know, I want to thank the parents for speaking out and sharing his legacy with all of us, and our thoughts are with them for their loss.
Absolutely, yes. And that's all for today's program. But before you go, we'd love to hear from you. You can share your thoughts and your story at goodmorning@ntd.com. So shoot us an email if you'd like. Thank you for watching. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.